Hello there, this is Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, and today I am here to talk about Mystery and Manners by Flannery O'Connor. Flannery O'Connor lived from 1925 to 1964, writing essays, short stories, and 2 novels, prominently featuring Southern characters and the setting of Georgia. She was both a Catholic and a writer, and you might never find a closer commingling of the 2 identities in one person. As a young author, she spent time at the Iowa Writers' Workshop, where she recorded her prayer journal, which was more recently published. Before Christmas of 1950, she had her first attack of lupus on a train ride from Connecticut back to her home of Georgia. She wrote some of her very best fiction in the years between then and her death, at age 39. She wrote an incredible amount of short stories, with incredible depth, spiritual and literary. You've likely read her stories in school, and I highly recommend them as a wonderful place to start reading Flannery O'Connor. Several of my booktube friends are also making videos about Flannery O'Connor today, and I will link them down below. I decided that I was going to pick out some quotes about writing from her famous book of essays, Mystery and Manners. I've picked out 12 quotes, and they are divided into 3 subjects. I hope that you enjoy hearing about them, and if you do, that you will check out this book for yourself instead of just taking my word for the quotes, and also that you will consider liking this video and hitting the subscribe button if you would like to see more from me. The first selections of quotes are all about Flannery's vision and the writer's vision in general for their writing. I'm going to start off with some of the more practical tips, what Flannery would consider a writer's job. Quote number 1, the Catholic novelist doesn't have to be a saint. He doesn't even have to be a Catholic. He does, unfortunately, have to be a novelist. I think what Flannery is saying here is that good intentions do not make a good novel. Flannery urged that writing craft was not optional for writing a good story. Having a good message does not mean that you're writing a good novel. Quote number 2, the fact is that anybody who has survived childhood has enough information about life to last him the rest of his days. If you can't make something out of a little experience, you probably won't be able to make it out of a lot. The writer's business is to contemplate experience, not to be merged in it. This is in response to the criticism that young writers are going from school right into writing without spending a lot of time in the world. Quote number 3, the novelist is required to open his eyes on the world around him and look. If what he sees is not highly edifying, he is still required to look. Then he is to reproduce, with words, what he sees. Quote number 4, the main concern of the fiction writer is with mystery as it is incarnated in human life. You will find a lot of references to mystery in Mystery and Manners. My personal interpretation of that is that it has to do with the incarnation, but I'm not entirely sure. If you have any ideas, let me know down below in the comments. Let's move on to our next subject area, vision. Flannery O'Connor discovered a very specific vision for her work, and she thought that all writers needed to have vision and not just mechanics. This is the other side of the first quote I mentioned in the video. Quote number 5, the fiction writer should be characterized by his kind of vision. His kind of vision is prophetic vision. Prophecy, which is dependent on the imaginative and not the moral faculty, need not be a matter of predicting the future. Flannery clearly viewed writing as a form of prophecy. Quote number 6, I have found from reading my own writing that my subject in fiction is the action of grace in territory held largely by the devil. Flannery's fiction is typically described as Southern Gothic or grotesque. It's very dark, but often the action of grace is depicted even through the unwilling assistance of the devil. If that sounds interesting, or you don't understand what I mean, I highly recommend you go check out her short stories. Quote number 7, the storyteller must render what he sees, and not what he thinks he ought to see. But this doesn't mean that he can't be, or that he isn't, a moralist, in the sense proper to him. Quote number 8, referring to a writer, Flannery said, he might find that instead of reflecting the image at the heart of things, he has only reflected our broken condition, and through it, the face of the devil we are possessed by. This is a modest achievement, but perhaps a necessary one. Flannery was very much a proponent of writing what you see. If you see evil in the world, you should write about it, even if it's ugly, and you should use concrete detail to do it. Only then can you start bringing out the mystery. We'll get to that in a minute. Quote number 9, the general accusation against writers now is that they write about rot because they love it. Some do, and their works may betray them. But it is impossible not to believe that some write about rot because they see it and recognize it for what it is. Quote number 10, compassion is a word that sounds good in everybody's mouth and which no book jacket can do without. It is a quality which no one can put his finger on in any exact critical sense, so it is always safe for anybody to use. Usually, I think what is meant by that is that the writer excuses all human weakness because human weakness is human. The hazy kind of compassion demanded of the writer now makes it difficult for him to be anti-anything. Certainly, when the grotesque is used in a legitimate way, the intellectual and moral judgments implicit in it will have the ascendancy over feeling. You may be wondering about the usage of the term grotesque in the last quote. Well, that's what we're about to talk about now. The grotesque. Quote number 11. In these grotesque works, we find that connections which we would expect in the customary kind of realism have been ignored, that there are strange skips and gaps which anyone trying to describe manners and customs would certainly not have left. Yet, the characters have an inner coherence, if not always a coherence to their social framework. Their fictional qualities lean away from typical social patterns, toward mystery and the unexpected. Quote number 12. When you can assume that your audience holds the same beliefs you do, you can relax and use more normal means of talking to it. When you have to assume that it does not, then you have to make your vision apparent by shock. To the hard of hearing, you shout, and for the almost blind, you draw large and startling figures. Anyone who has read Flannery O'Connor's fiction knows exactly what that quote is talking about. Shock is one of her primary tools to get her message across to a Protestant readership in the South as a Catholic. And that's the end of our quote section. As you can probably tell, Flannery loved to use hard edges to convey her deepest values: grace, truth, and the mystery, whatever the mystery is. Throughout the book, she emphasizes the use of concrete language and detail to get across the more spiritual experiences you will find in her fiction. I hope you enjoyed these quotes and that it will encourage you to pick up a copy of Mystery and Manners and a copy of Flannery O'Connor's short stories. I also hope that you will leave me a comment down below about any of the quotes that you enjoyed. If you like Flannery O'Connor or you would like to start reading her, I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and comment and subscribe. Bye!